to the absolutely out-of-his-mind madman who wrote and directed Skinamarink, and the equally off-of-his-fucking rocker lunatic that wrote and directed the Outwaters, I have two questions for each of you. One, what drugs are you on? And two, how do I acquire them? The Outwaters. It is the latest addition to the found footage horror subgenre and is written by, directed by, photographed by, edited by, and stars Robbie Banfitch. God damn, that son of a bitch needs to unionize. In the film, a group of jackassy young people go out into the middle of nowhere to film a project and find themselves smack dab in the middle of some horrific bullshittery. You know, like every found footage movie ever, except in this one you get even more butt-fucked cinematography and even less explanations. Listen, I could probably pen out a detailed description of this whole movie, and by the time you got done watching it, you would still find yourself walking out saying, well, that was unexpected. Never the fucking less, here's your spoiler warning. Give me the good stuff. I love me a good, foreboding opening to a horror flick. The type of shit that basically starts off the picture by saying, everyone's gonna die, and you just have to wait and see how it happens. The Prestige does this masterfully, and the recent remake of Pet Sematary does it to varying degrees of success. However, the all-time champ for telling you everything's gonna go to hell even before the opening credits begin to roll is undeniably the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Starting the movie off with a very fucking distressful 911 call sets the tone and expectation for the finale of the film. And while some shit definitely goes down, the question of whether or not the preceding events live up to the grim ideas introduced into our minds at the start of the film really depends on the viewer. Piggybacking on that, when shit does hit the fan, it's pretty hardcore. There's a moment in the film where everything's starting to go south and a character is screaming for her mommy, and it is fucking gut-wrenching. Something about grown-ass adults crying for their moms when they're scared or in pain cuts to a feeling so primal that it's just downright unnerving. That, coupled with hatchets to the head, schlong severing, screaming worms from hell that look like baby graboids from Tremors, and a slew of other god-awful shit that goes down, makes this flick heavy on horror in the best ways. And as far as I'm concerned, this flick makes good on its promise in the early moments of the film for a truly horrific finale. I mean, it is certainly not what I thought it would be, but I will be goddamned if the final moments of this picture are not truly fucking horrendous to witness. And now it's time to talk about the shit. Found footage is a very tricky act to get right. Like most that have come before it, the Outwaters struggles to create empathetic characters. Robbie and Michelle get a little bit of love, but Angela and definitely Scott get next to no development. The format also lends itself to a style of cinematography that's so chaotic it can make it difficult to discern what's happening on screen. This flick takes that shit to another level. There are scenes with large stretches of video lit by the smallest flashlight known to man or God, no light at all, or simply stagnant images. It's enough to test the patience of even the most tolerant viewer. It's me. I'm the most tolerant viewer. I'm talking about me. When am I not talking about me? I'm always talking about me. Why wouldn't I talk about me? I mean, hey, it's me. Much like another highly discussed recently released horror film, The Outwaters is not particularly interested in explaining how or why these strange and terrible things are happening to our characters. But unfortunately, also like Skinamarink, it doesn't lay the groundwork for us to even give a shit about these characters. You have to, at the very least, do one or the other. Otherwise, you find yourself in the unenviable hole that both movies dug for themselves, which is creating a narrative that has neither structure nor pathos. If I can't have a character to relate to, then how am I supposed to engage with them on their journey? And if I can't comprehend the story, then why do I care what happens to this character that I can't relate to? Go ahead and give me that rewatch. Like most found footage movies, The Outwaters doesn't exactly lend itself to repeat viewings, and with its chaotic cinematography and loose narrative, maybe even less so than most. That being said, if you find yourself hypothesizing about what the actual fuck happened in the movie, well then you might just want to rewatch it to see if any of those ideas sync up. I myself do have a theory about why Robbie and the gang find themselves in a continuous hell loop, and I do think a repeat viewing might help solidify those suspicions. Did I love this movie? Absolutely not. As a whole, the found footage genre doesn't really thrill me, and the nonsensical last half of the feature felt like a frustrating case of deja vu coming hot off the heels of Skinamarink, which I liked, but it still pissed me off. That being said, if I thought this picture did not have any redeeming qualities, I would not have reviewed it. Like Skinamarink, I have thought about this movie a lot since I watched it, and I do consider that a positive thing. The Outwaters is weird, creepy, and above all, it is fucked up. And I am happy to have watched it. Well, that about does it for this episode of the Jony Horror Reviews. I'm your host, Jony Horror, here to remind you youngsters to be good to one another, be half-decent human beings, and always remember to do sober what you said you'd do drunk. 'Cause that'll teach you to keep your fucking mouth shut. Listen, I could probably pin down a detailed description of everything that happens in the whole movie, and by the time it got done and you walked out of there, you would still find yourself saying, fuck.